Hey everyone, welcome to Aerobic AF. I'm Ken and this is Quinlan.
We're pumped you're here. This is your home for a casual, unfiltered look at the world of running and all things hybrid training.
If you're trying to level up, stay consistent, and still be a normal human being, you're in the right place.
Let's get into it.
Q, you have been doing such a good job at opening the show recently. I'm going to continue that trend today. We are talking about the treadmill, aka the treadmill, which has been very top of mind
This winter.
this winter, especially. There's so much snow outside. We've been doing a lot more treadmill running simply because we've been forced to.
Yeah, I felt the exact same way because normally you do feel like you have a choice between indoor and outdoor running. And lately, with the icy conditions outside, I do feel forced to using the treadmill. It's like just not an option at this point to be outside.
One thing I've noticed, though, is that you're taking a softer stance on the treadmill.
Oh,
You were being very hard on it before.
Very
Seems to
anti.
really dislike it a lot. Wasn't really sure about the purpose of it comparatively to outdoor running. I feel that stance softening a little bit of late.
yeah, I think, well, okay, I know exactly why this has happened. Because when I started training more seriously in the marathon, I made a very intentional decision that I would not be a fair weather runner and I would run outside regardless of the conditions. I think that served me well overall because, rain or shine, I'd be outside, and that set me up for success on race day because you don't know what weather you're going to get. And if you get a marathon day like Boston Marathon 2018, when it was a historic wind rainstorm,
That was a disaster.
you want to be prepared for that. So I do think that mindset was rigid and it did not allow me to actually see the treadmill as a performance tool. And now it's become the white knight of winter for me. So I'm super
The
grateful.
White Knight. Wow. That's high praise.
It is. I'm really grateful to have access to a treadmill and that I get to run on one because, as I said before, it is not an option to be running outside most days recently here in Toronto. I think other parts of the world are a little bit more fortunate with their weather, but for us over here, it's just not an option.
It's been minus 20, minus 25. It's been windy. Even just yesterday, we had a warning that was going to be up to 80-kilometer wind gusts. And even just walking down the street, we were frozen.
Yeah, so
The thought of doing a longer run or any sort of effort outside
yeah,
is just too much at the moment.
I'd rather be on the treadmill totally now. But that's exactly it. I actually felt backed into a corner and that if I did not loosen my stance on the treadmill, that I was going to be in for a really difficult few weeks.
And this is kind of an eternal debate in the running community that we are addressing today is
Yeah.
treadmill versus outdoor running and the benefits of both, how you should use both, whether one's better than the other. We're going to kind of look at this.
All angles,
Yeah,
all
the
sides
entire
of this.
thing.
Yeah.
That's right. First and foremost, I think, the Canadian winter is just sometimes going to force you inside, whether you like it or not. Through the month of December, we were getting a ton of outdoor runs in because there wasn't really much snow. And even though it was cold, you could still run outside with good footing. It was feeling like there was more access, like the sidewalks weren't completely covered up yet. It just felt like that was more available through December, but that hasn't been the case for us through January and February.
Not at all. And so I do think it is helpful to look at both outdoor running and treadmill running as being like tools that you can use to make you faster, be consistent, and not just be so extreme one way or the other. There's definitely pros and cons to both. I think one of the other, if we're going to start maybe with ways that you get forced into the treadmill, is coming back from injury. So I wanted to talk a bit about that because that is another place where the treadmill can become your best friend. It's lower impact on your joints, a more controlled environment. You don't have to commit to going a certain distance. You can really use it as much or as little as you want in those moments. And so I think that's another way that you become, more grateful for having the treadmill. It's kind of between that and bad weather for me, where I'll often get forced into it.
We have several friends who have been dealing with, we call them the little niggles, the running kind of injuries that persevere, and they have to take a little bit of time off from outdoor running, and the treadmill becomes a very, very good tool for them to ease back in and make sure that they aren't pushing the body too far,
it's
too
low
quickly.
Impact.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really good for like a better shock absorption, which ultimately reduces stress on the joints. But I will say a word of caution is that you don't want to rely solely on the treadmill when coming back from injury, because you do need to work on those like other stabilizer muscles, overall balance, and ultimately if you want to get back to road racing or racing on hard surfaces, your body needs to be primed and equipped to handle that. So actually maybe this is a fun story time, but when I was coming back from my ACL surgery, I did one run on the treadmill that got me cleared to run, and then I didn't see the treadmill once after that.
You never went back.
No, I was adamant about running outside because it was more important for me to prove to myself that I could handle the load and impact of outdoor running and what it demanded of me than go on the treadmill. But in hindsight, I probably could have run further on the treadmill than outside. But the path I took was to set my body up for success to race outside. So that's why I skipped over the treadmill phase. I think if this were to happen to me now, though, I would most certainly use the treadmill as I'm transitioning to outdoor. But I do think that transition is super critical.
One of the reasons this conversation came up was because we were reading an article on The Rocks Life, one of our favorite websites, talks a lot more specifically about high rocks training, but they were discussing this exact thing. So that was kind of part of the inspiration of this episode. And a lot of pros use the treadmill basically exclusively for their quality sessions, which I found very interesting.
This has also helped me see the treadmill as a hero in training.
Your hero of the sport, Lauren Weeks.
I love her.
She's probably your number one, right?
She's amazing. Apart from being just so physically dominant, she is so, well, I don't know her, but she has wholesome vibes, warm energy, really supportive of the other athletes who are like beating her in some races as well. Like, she just seems like an awesome human. So if Lauren Weeks is on the treadmill, then sign me up.
I get a similar vibe from James Kelly.
Oh yeah, you love him.
Who is also just very kind of chill demeanor, works hard, and also does all of his quality sessions specifically on the treadmill.
Yeah, it's very common as we're seeing now. And James Kelly, for the listeners, he just had an incredible race in Phoenix. So High Rocks hosts
finished second.
They have major races, I think 4 of them per season, and the top 3 finishers will qualify for world championships. So it's a qualifier race. It's a really big deal. He was actually
in 6th or 7th.
Yeah, he was nowhere close to the top 3 qualifying spots. And then he came out of nowhere during wall balls and he just blazed past other athletes who had clearly gone out too hard. So I can respect an athlete like that, sits in their race, holds a little bit left at the tank, and has that big kick at the end. I love that.
We always talk about it. Pacing is so important in this race specifically. And you can tell that the physiological adaptations from Kelly's training really showed up in that moment where he was able to stay calm, stay composed, and ultimately move up 4 or 5 places to solidify a spot in the E15 World Championship. So a fantastic race for him, and obviously kind of another check mark in the column for
Totally.
treadmill training actually being very useful and having real world results for the athletes who are using it.
Yeah, because I think sometimes as a traditional runner, I'll say treadmill feels
Like cheating.
yeah, it's like not real. I'm like, that's not real. It's like inside, you're not going anywhere. Like, how do you know how far you've gone? We can get into that a little bit later, but
Yeah.
we did want to call out that there is a not like quite prominent world class middle distance runner. You pronounce his name a bit better, Jakob.
Jakob Ingebrigtsen.
Ingebrigtsen. I always mess it up.
No, he's also one of the kind of goats of like interval and VO2 max training.
Yes.
Really, really successful Olympic like middle distance runner, world record holder. This guy has always done his threshold runs on the treadmill and was another top level athlete that was cited in the Rocks Life article. So really, really fantastic results for him. Specifically just doing all of his quality sessions on the treadmill.
Yeah. So, and I think it's important to note, like, we obviously don't know the ins and outs of these athletes' training regime outside of this, but the fact that they are using the treadmill to their advantage, like, clearly there's something there. So,
well, I think strategically for these athletes, what they value is that the treadmill offers precision, it offers consistency, and it offers repeatability. And you know that those 3 factors are always going to be able to be duplicated when you use a treadmill.
Lots of controlled variables in the environment, which is really helpful when you're getting down to the like actual data that you're getting back from these sessions.
Yeah, if you're being that specific with your training, it makes sense to remove as many variables as you can.
Like, I do find it difficult when I look back in some of my run workouts. I'm like, oh, well, this day there were 40-kilometer wind gusts, and on this day it was 35 degrees Celsius. And I'm like, I can't really judge how I executed.
This is a perfect segue because one of the main differences between outdoor running and indoor running is the energy exchange. Because of things like the terrain, because of things like the wind conditions, your body will actually use less oxygen and your heart rate will be lower at the same pace running on a treadmill versus running outside because of these factors.
Yeah, which I always find crazy because even though technically or scientifically it should be easier on the treadmill, it feels way harder for me.
Sometimes it feels bad.
And
I'll give you that.
I think it's also because there are like psychological impacts on the treadmill.
Is it the mirror?
Well,
Is it the mirror in front of our treadmill?
Our treadmill at the gym, there's a mirror. So I love looking at myself in the mirror. That might be a benefit.
That's the highlight. That's the highlight of the run.
My shoulders look so perfect and they're
looking strong.
Yeah,
looking strong.
Looking really strong. But I think it kind of ties back to the point of your perceived rate of effort or exertion and how
RPE.
Yeah, how the mental side of it really impacts what you can do physically. So, the monotonous nature of the treadmill, you're not getting those little bursts of enjoyment for your brain when you're outside. So that is one piece of it. But then also, I think we talked a little bit about this before, you can't vary the terrain. So where very varied terrain could be harder outside, when you're inside, you don't get those little micro fluctuations that you would get in an outdoor climate. So that can make it feel harder, like you perceive it as harder. And I've thought about this. I often like to do my runs outside with a little bit of uphill and downhill incorporated because it uses different muscles. But when you think about it, on the treadmill, it's all the same. So it's very repetitive, which, as we said, can be a huge benefit and a pro, but then it can also be a con to your perceived rate of effort.
This is where that famous 1% rule comes from. To
Yeah.
kind of duplicate.
Try to mimic outdoor.
Yes, because there is going to be the different terrain, there is going to be the wind resistance depending on how fast you're running. That might be more or less depending.
Yeah. Oh
But
gosh.
generally, the rule of thumb is putting your treadmill on a 1% incline will more or less duplicate.
It's supposed to mimic the outdoor, I guess, conditions more
Yes.
accurately. So I've been doing that. I'll kind of fluctuate between 0.5 and 1% actually, because I'm trying to mimic those micro fluctuations. So
You are so dialed in on this.
yeah, randomly during the run, I'll just kind of change the elevation or the incline. I don't know, kind of at random, just to switch it up a little bit.
Even to minus 0.5.
I haven't gone there.
Need to make it a little bit easier
Running
during
into
those.
the ground.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to keep an eye on your incline when we're doing our threshold workouts together to make sure that
I'm actually running downhill.
that's right. So the treadmill pace not equal to outdoor pace, and effort on the treadmill matters more than speed. Correct?
Yeah.
We agree there.
Yeah. So I think that's also important. We talked about how elite athletes will use the treadmill for threshold training because one of the variables they can control is having a set pace. But I would say there's a lot of benefit to doing some of your faster workouts outside as well, because you can't rely on the treadmill and the belt to like propel you forward. You have to do that yourself. And that kind of goes into the muscle activations that come when you're outside versus inside.
Mm-hmm. This is something that probably is the biggest difference between outdoor running and indoor running on the treadmill.
Yeah.
You mentioned the hills, turns, uneven surfaces, even on the sidewalk or wherever it is that you're running. Not everybody just has a perfect track in their neighborhood.
No such
and
thing.
Even if you had one, you couldn't use it right now anyways. The stabilizer muscle groups do improve balance and they do improve your coordination, and you need to at least have some stimulus into those muscle groups to make them effective, so that when it does come up, which it will come up on race day,
100%.
we're always racing outside, or we're racing in an arena on
And
concrete.
you have to turn a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot of left turns going on.
Hook turns too. Like you have to come run one way and then immediately do a 180-degree turn the other way. Like that is not easy to do.
No, that's a lot. That's more high rock specific, just doing the little hairpins around the in and out arches. Yeah, that's a lot to manage.
So it is important to incorporate outdoor running for this reason, of course. And going back to what I was saying before, this was the sole reason why I didn't use the treadmill when I came back from injury, because as I said, I wanted to prove to myself that I had the right level of muscle to support no pain in my knee when I ran outside. And I mean, I'm happy to report that almost 3 years later, I am running completely pain-free. I've none. Thank you.
We know we love that.
None of my pain has come from my knee at all outside, knock on wood. And I think it's because I've forced myself to go straight to outdoor running. So even though it might have been a bit of a slower climb back to volume, this was this factor alone was more important to me.
The end justifies the means,
Totally,
some might say.
totally.
Yeah, maybe you could have incorporated treadmill to get back the aerobic volume a little bit
Yes.
earlier, but ultimately everything that came from running outside worked to your benefit in the long run.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that the running outdoors also, like, just the impact, like, it does strengthen your bones. Like, it strengthens like the muscle groups and surrounding tissues of all the joints, which is very important for longevity of running as well.
Yes, and it's funny because when you think about running, you don't naturally link that to, I'll call it like strength training in a sense, but you really are training your body outside of just aerobically because of all these factors. And specifically if you do trail running or hill training, that's a surefire way to increase strength overall in the body. So runners are strong. Can't tell me otherwise.
One of the first things I actually noticed about your running specifically was the mechanics. And I think I remember saying to you, like one of the first times I saw you run, that your mechanics were very, very smooth.
You did pay me that compliment.
And
I think during an interval rep, I was like, wow, that's nice to hear.
Yeah, in the middle of the rep. That's
yeah.
it. That probably wasn't working hard enough on the rep if I was just having a conversation.
But chit-chatting on a 1K repeat.
That's another issue in itself. But that's another thing that can be affected by a treadmill. Is your mechanics are going to be different on the treadmill versus running outside, because on the treadmill the belt is propelling you forward.
Yeah.
Outdoors you have to generate your own force.
Your hamstrings don't have to work as hard when you're on the treadmill. So it's more quad dominant. And that's also why I think if you're used to running outside, when you start running on the treadmill, it can feel harder because it's not as natural of a gait. And you do need to adjust for that a little bit.
That's certainly, I think the gait difference is something that you do have to pay attention to. Because once you do kind of move from outdoor or indoor back to outdoor, it can be quite a bit more demanding. And holding similar paces and outdoor running versus what you're running on the treadmill can feel quite a bit harder.
Yeah.
Like there's been times recently where I've been running on the treadmill and I've been holding a pace that feels amazing.
Really? Okay.
And then you
go to the track.
Yeah, you go to the track and
different.
It just feels sometimes more difficult.
Yeah.
And obviously that's tough to quantify because I am in the process of building back my aerobic fitness after taking a little bit of time off towards the end of last year after the High Rocks Vancouver and then recovering from the surgery in early January. Mm-hmm. Obviously I'm in the middle of a rebuild, but I did find it interesting that doing the sessions on the treadmill, I'm holding like a 3:45 per kilometer pace for 5 minutes. And then when I do the same thing at the track, it for even for harder. 1K, it's a more difficult effort for a less distance.
So this is something else that you need to consider with the treadmill. And I'm not saying that you didn't hold that pace, but you don't know how the treadmill is calibrated.
This is it's true. This is an interesting point that I actually hadn't ever considered.
I've been doing mostly easy runs on the treadmill, so
RP.
I don't really
not
care
concerned about the speed,
pace.
really.
But it's something to consider, especially if you are like very dialed into a specific pace for an upcoming race. You need to be mindful of calibrating the treadmill. I think it's every 6 months that you should be calibrating it, but I don't know if you're at a hotel or a new gym and you just hop onto this random treadmill.
Don't use equipment that you don't know.
Yeah, you
can't trust strange gym equipment.
It'll gaslight you more than your watches.
No, it's a fair point. If you don't know that the treadmill has been calibrated in a way, or recently, like,
at all, yeah,
and especially these ones at the gym, like the 2 treadmills in the back of our gym seem to be basically being used 8 to 10 hours a day
all
at this time of year while the weather's bad. It's like every time I go back there, somebody's on it. So I'm not saying that it's not calibrated, but I'm saying that it's something that you have to be aware of. Maybe you're feeling great at this pace on the treadmill, but maybe you just simply aren't actually running that pace.
And that's where, a call back to our last episode where we talked about the smartwatch and how that can
gaslight you really bad.
Now I'm gonna feel gaslit by the treadmill when I think I'm running 8 miles per hour, but it feels way harder. So it's another thing to keep in mind. I think the overall theme today is that there's not a wrong or right way to train, but knowing the intention of why you're running outside or why you're running inside will really help focus in. So obviously right now we've talked a lot about the weather conditions outside. I feel like I'm personally going to be more consistent and get more volume in on the treadmill. So the trade-offs being that I probably do need to do more like accessory strength training to compensate for not having that outside. That's fine. I can incorporate that into my weekly routine. And then also going off of like the RPE and heart rate a bit more than specific pace, that's going to help just like, ground me in my training, and yeah, kind of taking it from there. But it's interesting because I think we like to take sides and, argue that one is better than the other, but really both can be quite powerful at the end of the day.
Yeah, if you're using both together for the intended purposes, then both are very useful tools in your toolbox. You just have to make sure that you're not being overly reliant on one or the other. One thing that I really like about the outdoor running is that the run just seems to go by much faster. I know that you mentioned this a little bit earlier with the monotony of treadmill running. I just think getting the sunlight feels really good. Definitely boosts my mood. Running outside, getting the fresh air are obviously benefits. I just feel less stressed after doing a nice outdoor run.
Nothing beats lacing up on a crisp, sunny day, meeting up with friends, going for coffee after. Like, that is peak happiness in my books. So yeah, trudging my way through a snowstorm, getting on a bus, going to the gym, and running on the treadmill by myself for an hour is definitely not as fun. So yeah, really trying to survive here.
One thing that came up that a listener actually proposed this question to us was how to train for a warm weather marathon or a marathon in a warmer climate
through the winter
in a place like Toronto. There are a couple ways to do this, but one conclusion that we actually came to in our pre-work for this was that actually training on a treadmill in a warmer gym or warmer environment is one way to get the heat adaptation training that might not be as easily available to you if in a climate where it's colder at this time of year.
Yes, exactly. So that's a perfect example of being intentional with your training. So you can like train for a warmer weather race inside, and you can't get that from outside. So that would totally influence how you should structure your weekly training plan. Also, for on the topic of heat, like
heat adjustment trainer, heat acclimatization training.
The other way to achieve this is by layering up outside, just really adding extra layers. But
you've done this for races before, haven't you?
Yes. I did do that for the Ottawa Marathon.
Ottawa, shout out to Ottawa.
About that before. But through March, April, I would be layering up more than usual so that my body was running hot.
Were people looking at you strangely while you were layering up for these runs? Yeah, they
probably were like, why is this girl wearing like so many layers when it's 15 degrees outside? But there was a reason, and I think it did help ultimately. But right now, that's not an option either because it is negative 25. I don't think you could add more layers to get yourself up to that level. So again, being really intentional about how you're using indoor and outdoor. Great reminder.
I do think that one aspect of outdoor training, we kind of touched on this before, is the mental toughness aspect of this. Like just mixing in a run every once in a while where it is very cold and it's tough to get out the door can definitely build up that muscle of saying that mental muscle saying I can do hard things. And when you look back in your Strava in the past and you see I went on a run where it was minus 30, that can really help you get up for the run where it's minus 10 or minus 15, understanding that you've done that in the past and you can definitely conquer this.
I think part of the reason why I also felt kind of allergic to treadmill running really was because I worried that I would start to rely on it too much.
It's going to make you soft.
It's going to make me soft. I'd lose my edge. And I do think it's such an important edge to maintain, to be able to run outside in the rain, snow. And I've said this before, but drawing the line at, low visibility and icy roads, because that just is dangerous. Like we could be a bit stupid outside in the bad weather, but we don't have to be.
Speak for yourself.
We don't have to be dangerous about it.
I've recently heard, or what sounds like, maybe a horse coming down the road with horseshoes on when you've been on the treadmill recently, which would lead me to believe the piece of equipment that you're using is a carbon shoe. Is this true? Would you like to elaborate on this a bit? I just hear that snap when a carbon shoe goes by, even on the road, and I've been hearing it with you on the treadmill.
Yeah, that's correct. I am wearing my
I knew it.
carbon shoe on the treadmill. So I found the treadmill to be exceptionally challenging, and there was a part of me that thought, like, is this really just me? Like, why is it that I see on Strava other people are running on the treadmill? Why is this so difficult for me? And
Equipment issue.
Equipment issue. So exactly, I was using my very cushy, easy running shoe on the treadmill, which was actually making it harder for myself because you already get that cushion from the treadmill belt. You don't need to add it for the shoe, and you're actually better off using
a more stiff shoe.
A much lighter weight shoe as well that is more stable, and you don't need to kind of protect your joints in that same way. So I was just doubling up on cushion. I'm like, no wonder I felt so flat. And now I am wearing my carbon shoe, one of my on cloud like training shoes.
The Cloud Boom Strike? Is that the one?
It's a lower profile carbon shoe. Yeah, so it's also, there's not as high of a stack. And I'm really liking it for the treadmill. So I think it's important to have a treadmill specific shoe as part of your rotation so that you are optimizing your stride, your efficiency, and it's not making it harder than it needs to be.
Where obviously for outdoor running, you are just picking the shoe based off weather conditions. You're picking the shoe based off the effort that you're doing.
Workout day, long run day.
So good traction for wet roads, like maybe a more durable shoe if you're running on kind of uneven terrain. It's all relative.
It's treating it exactly the same, having the treadmill easy day shoe and the treadmill workout shoe. So I think you were wearing these the other day in our workout, but the Saucony Kinvara, I was reading that that's actually a really good treadmill shoe. So I might tap back into that one.
Yeah, I got to break those out. They've kind of been out of the rotation
recently.
I don't know if you've ever even seen me wear that shoe.
No.
Those might have been a surprise
in the archives.
That's it. We busted them out. They're in the trunk of my car as my emergency shoe, and I needed them on that day. So happy they were there. Let's get to our new favorite part of the episode, the science versus myth segment at the end here.
Yes.
We'll start with this one. Treadmill running isn't real running. The floor is yours.
Maybe this is something I believed as well. So it's fitting, but realistically, it is. Like, you are still moving your body. You're still getting your heart rate up. And even though, as we said, there are certain differences between outdoor and treadmill running, it is still running. You might be using slightly less energy at the same pace, but there's ways that you can mimic that with the 1% incline. And I think ultimately, we talk about this a lot, but whatever is going to make you consistent, like, that's what's going to translate to making you a better runner. So it doesn't matter if it's outdoor or indoor. It's what you feel works for you in that season. We
also talk a lot about the different metrics that you can use to track how your workout is going. You can track RPE, your rate of perceived exertion. You can track your pacing when you're talking about running specifically, or you can track heart rate zones. For me on the treadmill, heart rate zones are extremely effective if you can't be as reliant on the pacing, or you can't be so RPE and maybe heart rate are more effective metrics for the tread workout specifically. Yeah, exactly.
Next myth. Okay, treadmill work does not make you stronger.
So I'm going to preface this by saying the outdoor running does enhance the stabilizing muscles better than the treadmill.
Yeah.
So we do understand that there are certain muscle groups that will not get worked in the same way on the treadmill versus outdoor running. But that doesn't mean that doing a quality session doesn't build fitness and doesn't supplement strength, even if you're doing it on the treadmill. I do think that you can still get that benefit. You just have to be as we talked about before, a little bit more intentional in the way that you're using this.
Exactly. And I actually think this kind of just came to mind right now, but I think that as a high rocks athlete, it's not as urgent or critical to be supplementing with additional strength training if you're running on the treadmill, because that's baked into so much of your training already. So you probably are a bit better off compared to like a more traditional distance runner that doesn't get in the gym as frequently for strength training. I think it's a good reminder for the distance runners out there that are, looking at the treadmill to get them through the winter. You should be prioritizing strength training even more because you're not getting those like outdoor benefits.
Makes sense. Treadmill running is easier. I'm going to debunk this right now.
My myth is that it's harder.
Yes, you're actually going the other way. I think that mentally, running on the treadmill can be way more difficult.
I agree.
When I'm running outside, I'm generally aware-ish about how far I've gone, but the time goes by much more quickly when I'm just in the treadmill, especially if I'm by myself. Like the treadmill actually is where you almost need a friend even more to just have a conversation with while you're there to make the time go by faster. But when I'm outside, it just naturally, you just kind of go through the workout. You're looking at the trees, you're looking at the birds, you're passing people. It's just the time goes by more quickly. So in that sense, the mental aspect I feel like is much more difficult on the treadmill versus running outside, even if the effort might be perceived as easier.
Yeah, this is actually one of the ways that I've made treadmill running productive for me, is that I go in knowing that it's going to make me kind of go to a place that's quite mind-numbing. And that's a really important place to be able to tap into when you're running a race.
You need to be able to numb your mind, listen to cue.
Yeah, you do. So I actually did something insane the other week. I ran on the treadmill without music and without a friend.
Oof.
Just raw dogged it. It was awful.
I think it's so funny that everybody's just talking about raw dogging everything now. I'm like, do you guys understand where this phrase originated?
All right. Well, okay.
But that's like people are like, I raw dogged a 12-hour flight.
Okay.
Like, why would you do that?
I've done that for portions of flights, but that's when it's like 10 plus hours and I'm just so bored of even music at that point in time.
The only way that you do that is if your phone dies and then you're forced into it.
That too. So, I mean, that's a good transition, actually. Ways that you can make the treadmill easier for yourself. That might be a nice place to end on. Just some kind of actionable takeaways, things that we've used. And
first and foremost, find a friend. I find that the treadmill running with somebody, even we did a treadmill workout the other day.
Yeah.
And I found even at the points where we maybe stopped talking for a minute or two, really made the time go by more slowly.
It did.
When we're in the full conversation, it's like you can just rip off half an hour, no problem.
That was kind of funny. I think we did around 45 minutes and we were talking for the first 40 minutes. And then I think I said, all right, 5 minutes to go. And we both just went silent. And then all of a sudden we were like,
the longest 5 minutes.
Why is time passing by so slowly? So absolutely, yeah, find a friend to, have a little treadmill date with. It definitely helps.
This is something that you do, I think, is incorporating maybe not just doing a full easy run, but incorporating maybe some tempo work in there to break up the amount of time if you are doing it by yourself.
Yeah, I think varying the speed or incline is helpful. So treating it a bit like a fartlek, which means you do kind of 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off. And
yeah, fartlek is kind of a lesser structured run workout where you're mixing up the distances and the pacing throughout the workout, but it's not as strict as doing 12 by 400 with 60-second race. Is that kind of a good way of explaining it?
Yes. So that can really help to pass the time. I've also had friends tell me that they'll read like a book or watch a TV show on the treadmill. Personally,
who's reading a book on the treadmill?
My friend Natalia. Shout out Natalia. She said that she'll only read the book when she's running on the treadmill, and so it makes you
I am
want
shocked.
to read. I've heard this
This is my
before.
shocked face.
Yeah.
The
No,
listeners can't see it, but how are
this
you able
before.
to focus like that?
I think
Is it
what I
audiobook?
was seeing, if you have a Kindle, you can make the font a lot bigger for yourself. But
I've seen that on my grandmother's Kindle.
yeah,
The
right.
font was
So,
very large.
but finding ways to make it incentivized for you, I guess. So, I mean, I think it's much more common. We hear people like watching TV shows or YouTube movies. And if you only allow yourself to watch that show on the treadmill, you're probably going to want to go on the treadmill more. So that's a good rule as well, and boundary to make for yourself. I wish I could watch TV when I'm running on the treadmill, but
There's no TVs.
I get so motion sick.
Yeah, fair
Like
point.
I can't even look on my phone.
It's true. Yeah, even just riding the subway, sometimes you get a little bit uneasy.
I can't even go. It's my Achilles heel. I can't even go into all of it.
Yeah. Okay, so let's just run through, like, recap of the episode, like where you're at. Treadmill, definitely a useful tool, but you should not be using it entirely as a crutch. You definitely have to use both indoor and outdoor running to
Or
make
at
sure that
least-
you're staying balanced in your training.
Or at least the strength training. If you are someone that exclusively runs on the treadmill, just don't forget about those little stabilizer muscles that you need.
You need them. The little stabilizer muscles, can't forget.
They're the difference maker.
Yeah, so just remember treadmills for controlled quality, pacing, or thresholds. Really, really good. It excels in these areas, whereas the outdoor runs definitely excel in strength, muscle adaptation, and just real world conditions that are going to best replicate what you might run into, especially
race
on
day.
outdoor running race days.
Yeah, totally. So combine both, use them to your advantage. I'd also say try not to use the term treadmill.
I opened with that, the treadmill. It just gives you a negative connotation about it right away.
Yeah, like whether you believe you can or can't,
You're probably
you are
right.
right.
Yeah.
And that is not my quote. That is like a famous.
Do you know whose quote it is?
Not on the top of my head.
What was the quote that I've been liking recently? It's misattributed to Walt Whitman, but it was recently an episode of that show. Oh my God, Ted Lasso.
Oh, Ted Lasso. Yeah.
Ted Lasso, yeah. Whereas lead with curiosity,
Not judgment.
not judgment.
Yeah. So see what the treadmill offers for you. Be curious about it.
This actually, I didn't even realize how well that ties
That
into this
does tie in
episode
well.
until right now. Be curious about the treadmill. Don't judge the treadmill
You
because it
might
can
unlock-
be useful.
You might unlock a new benefit that you didn't even know was there to unlock.
Yeah. Balanced training. We love it.
Yeah.
Anything else to add?
Well, I did find out that the quote was Henry Ford. So
Is that Henry Ford?
whether you
Like the
think
automaker?
the social psych.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't think. Well, maybe.
Is that did he
You know
also
what, we're gonna have
manufacture
to-
cards?
We're gonna have to fact check this after, but whether you think you can or think you can't, you are right.
If you enjoyed this episode, share it with your friends, share it with your family who want to join the great debate of treadmill versus outdoor running. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so follow us on @aerobicafpod. And in the meantime, stay aerobic AF!